I wanted to tell you about this marker project because in our communities, a lot of times we know of a place that should be marked. Other people in the community don't know. And it's up to us to try to do these things before they're erased. So we just installed a marker in Matawan, New Jersey, and Suzanne was nice enough to do a lot of research and help us. John Schneider was there videotaping, and Phoebe Ferris was there helping us set up and clean up, and my friend Mark, our team leader, is here today. I'll introduce you to him later. Anyhow, I better start before they get the hook out. Before this was New Jersey, it was New Netherlands, and before that it was called Shaishpi by the native people, land of the wampum, land by the ocean. You'll see the word Matawan. This is a Dutch map from the 1600s. And one of the earliest references we have of Matawan, which is an Indian word, meaning land by two rivers, two trails. And so here we are. Here's where we live, Monmouth County. And what's interesting about these old maps, the Dutch made a record of what they saw. And they saw villages, and they saw animals, and they saw what they thought were the roots that were there. So we get an idea of what was there and what they thought they knew in the 1600s. This was our project, the Minisink Trail Project. This map Marc Gottwerth created, showing the route from the Minisink River, which flows into the Atlantic Ocean. And we marked the trail where the markers are all the way until it leaves Monmouth County. So Marc was president of the Intertribal Council of AT&T employees. And his group was able to put up 4 markers. One at Clay Pit, which is at Hartshorn Park, which is a county park, along Kings Highway in Middletown. And it continues over, this number 6 one is in Matawan. That's the one we just installed. And next is number 5, which will be on Van Brackle. And then the last one, number 7, will be at Fresno Woods, which is another county park. So I first learned about this about 5 or 6 years ago by reading an article in the paper about Marc and the signs that they had installed. So we started talking, and Marc shared his ideas of what they wanted to do in the future. So just a brief background of what you can think about if you would like to do something like this in your community. We got letters of support from the different committees and commissions in Monmouth County, Historical Society, just all kinds of anybody that might be able to help. This was the marker that Marc's group put up, and there are 3 of these along the trail in the beginning. What's interesting about the Minisink Trail and many other trails is that people don't know they're on a trail. These were routes that connected all across New Jersey and were widened by settlers for their wagons and horses and eventually cars and buses and trains. In fact, our train line that goes right through Middletown was laid out on a trail. So they took the trail and put the train track there, so when you go to New York, you are on an Indian trail that was there at one time. The group was honored for the marker. The article I read was in the Two River Times, and that was my first encounter with Marc, which I'm sure he's sorry about. I contacted him about the New Jersey Historical Commission marker nominations, and we proceeded to make progress with that. We contacted his friends in Matawan and spent a day, an afternoon, touring and looking at the trail, which is one of the few unpaved sections of the trail. We had planned to go a couple of years ago to see this, and we were hit by a blizzard. So after digging out about 3 feet of snow, we finally got up there and met Gail, the property owner, and talked about it. Marc had done a lot of research and had a lot of records. And we continued with the research and compiling information. And we used this, this is one of the earliest primary sources that we had. This is what the Pomeroy Foundation used in accepting our grant. So the Minisink Trail started here at the Navisink and then proceeded across the Raritan River up to Minisink Island in the Delaware River. And this was a major trade route and migration route to the shore. And most of it's paved over by 206 and 287 and all kinds of major highways. So the reason why this little patch in Matawan was not paved is because they had to put a bridge in to cross the creek, and they probably needed a better foundation, so they moved the bridge, and in moving it, they saved that little section of the trail. The original wording for the marker was kind of historic and gave a lot of the background. Of course, most marker companies are not going to let you put that much on a marker. So our little team consisted of myself, Gail, who owns the property, 5 acres in Matawan, and then Barry and Daisy Orr, part of the Matawan Historical Society. We traveled around and took pictures and did research, more letters of support to mayors and county clerks and professors, historical societies and commissions. Visited the Mill Road site, thought about it, and decided, we kind of ran into a roadblock and kind of took a pause. So I sent in a proposal to the local college about teaching a class on Minisink Trail, and they accepted it, and we did that last August. Taught a 2-hour class for people who actually paid money and signed up to come, so quite astonishing. On the property and in Matawan, there was a historic mill which dated back to 1715 and had a long history and had even enslaved people there. And one of the newspaper articles said that Rice Krispies were invented there also. So the mill lasted for a couple hundred years before they took it down in 1911. We were writing a description for a booklet. We created the organization. We even thought about having a Minisink Trail run for the 250th, mapped out a route. All kinds of crazy ideas were floating around. We met with the mayor of Middletown, visited Atlantic Highlands, where they have a Lenape room on the 3rd floor, which had Paul Boyd's map on the wall where he had mapped out the trail through Monmouth County. So we spent an afternoon there tracing the trail on another map so we could use that in our talks and all. Marc also connected with the Historic Preservation Office, and we're still working with them to get Gail's property on that. Your application with Pomeroy Foundation, which I found very supportive working with them, will ask you for an aerial map, which you can get off Google, and you've got to put the coordinates in that you see there. And they wanted the marker in a certain place, and we ended up moving it down just a little bit because there wasn't enough foundation there to hold the marker. So the hardest thing about the application was the primary sources. You could not, they did not want secondary sources. So, I mean, primary sources for something in the 1600s, what are you going to do? So we found as much as we could, and they gave you a choice of uploading the information or sending it in paper, and I chose paper. I got notebooks, and I was able to line up everything in a logical way and submit the notebook. I think it cost me $11 to mail the notebook to them, but it was worth it. Another thing that you'll see is they want you to use Chicago style on your primary sources. And it's a little bit different than the old way we used to do back in ancient days. But I just printed it out, taped it up to the wall, and then just kind of followed it. But they didn't give me a hard time on anything. I did involve the state archives, and I had Vivian Thiel there digging out all the deeds that went on this property across Monmouth County, all the first transactions with the native people, their names, their marks, exactly where the land was, the tracks, all that we documented. Letters from the governor of East Jersey, and all the earliest owners of those tracts of land. Also, I made a visit to an amateur archaeologist, Ralph Phillips, who just in talking said, "Oh, I have something on Matawan." He pulls out this pamphlet from his collection that said Matawan 1686, sorry, that should be an 8 there, or 7. And it had the Federal Writers Project information in it and the map that they created. So for a primary source, that was about as good as it was going to get. And that was like an accident that I ran into that. Also, Boyd's dissertation to Rutgers, where he had done quite a bit of research, articles from New Jersey Archaeological Society, another article from New Jersey Bureau of Geology and Topography, and original Dutch maps that went back to 1614. And so the application began. First, a letter of intent you send in on the online, and then if they're interested, they'll say, okay, you can send in the primary sources. And that's what we did. They approved it, wanted to know if we had any other ideas. I said, oh yes, we have some other ideas, but we had intended on applying next year. We didn't think they would give us, a second marker, but they ended up giving us 3 markers. So they're both home in my garage, and we're working on getting them both installed for the 250th. This was our invitation that we created and sent out to the governor and senators and assembly people and congress people and county people and historical societies, and decided the date and hoped for the best. The Department of Public Works installed the sign, and I happened to have a tablecloth in my bag that day, so we took the plastic covering off and put the tablecloth on and wrapped it up and got ready to have the program. This is Marc speaking at our program, and I'm just glad that he is interested in history too, even though he's got a degree in EE and an MA in statistics. And 4 patents, so I'm sure he enjoyed talking to you afterwards. This was our program, which we designed and then created magnets and mugs and stickers and all kinds of fun stuff. and the invitation list on the first page, and then our program on the third page, and you'll see Suzanne there. So, and Mark, and another friend, an author, Rick Gefkin. I've done a lot of work with him. And then the Matawan Historical Hospitality Group did a wonderful refreshments of native foods that they put together and tried to make it as authentic as they possibly could. So here's Suzanne speaking. Thank you, Suzanne, for coming. Appreciate it. And I was supposed to take her to the train, but my car had gotten blocked in by about 5 or 6 other cars, so it took about 30 minutes to get my car out of there. This was our marker, and Pomeroy rewrote what we had written, but it said about the same thing. And so it was just important to mark that spot, because now everybody going past Mill Road, which goes back, hundreds of years, will know that the Minisink Trail passed there and they are on that trail. And my family, somehow my sons rounded them up and got them there. And our magnets, which I've got 18 left, so we think we'll sell them. And thank you very much.